Well, hopefully, gaming for all of us provides a bit of a release and a bit of an escape from the realities of daily life. And so, thinking about what we've been playing this month, should we start with our game of the month? So this month was Jeanne d'Arc, which I will continue to read out. I did mean this isn't the month to do it, James, but I was gonna hand over to you to do this bit in future.
Really?
I probably should have given you a chance to practice. So I'm just gonna read it out. But Jeanne d'Arc, it was your choice, or it was a collective choice. It was a great one, I thought. Really interesting. It's a bit of a curate's egg because it's a PlayStation portable game. It was released in Japan in November 2022. Oops, no, November the 22nd, 2006, which makes much more sense based on what it looks like. And I think you'd mentioned last time it was new to Europe in terms of the localization. So a tactical role-playing game, various sort of fantasy elements, loosely based on the story of Joan of Arc, which I'm sure we'll cover if we have played it, which hopefully we have by the time we get to talk about it in a second. Sort of a tale where history meets fantasy is the way that PlayStation describes it. Fairly straightforward, tactical RPG. What did you think?
Yeah, I think last month you were impressed by my recollection of knowledge about the game and the history of the French and the English in the 100 Years' War, etc. I have played the game. It's quite lucky because you didn't ask me if I had played it before you asked me the question about how was the game. So that was a bit of a risk. I like a bit of riskiness. I did enjoy it. It's not a kind of game I've really played before. It's very different in that it's not action-packed per se. So pretty much you start with your village, which is probably called Domremy, possibly, being invaded by some awful English people. The English people have been really bad and co-opted some monsters and demons and the like to fight for them. In history, obviously, in the olden days, the English people had between 5 and a half heroes that forged some armlets, which sounds like amulet, but it's actually an armlet that's on your arm, to defeat the demon army at the time, which was great. But then a few years passed by, the English got a bit greedy and decided to take on the French, and therefore they tried to co-opt the demons onto their side. So they called back the demons they defeated many years ago to fight against the French, which is obviously a bad thing to do because demons shouldn't be teaming up with humans. It's really bad. So when they defeat Domremy, Jeanne is one of the only people left in the village, plus her friend Liane, and someone who might be called Roland. Is it Roland? Something like that. So the three of them decide to team up and take on the English. And fortunately, Jeanne comes across one of the armlets that was used by the English to defeat the demons originally, and she starts hearing voices in her head. And it's not because she's crazy, it's because the armlet gives her special powers. So you then take on the role of the three of them, and you walk around a bit, you go to different locations, and you take on the English and the baddies by doing turn-based fighty stuff. So instead of hacking and slashing, you sort of plan where you're going to move to. You can move a certain number of squares in certain directions and stand in a certain place. And if you're next to a baddie, you can then choose to attack them, or you can choose to wait until the next turn and just sort of defend yourself, or you can choose to cast a spell and heal a colleague, or drop some healing potion on someone's head to make them feel better, or cast a spell on the baddie and sort of blow them up a bit, or shoot some fire at them, or whatever else. So that's the theory of the game. So there's lots of walking between locations, but all the action is pretty much based on this turn-based system, which I actually quite enjoyed, weirdly. Like I said, it's not massively exciting, but it is interesting. It does make you think about how you can defeat the enemies and where you can stand and who you can use, because each of your heroes has got different skills. You meet people along the way that team up with you, and they're good at certain things. Certain weapons, you can stab people over 2 spaces rather than 1 if you've got like a long bow rather than a little swordy thing. So it's really interesting, and there's some nice people you meet along the way. The graphics are a bit weird. I'm sure Giles would agree. It's sort of reminiscent of D'Artagnan from like the 80s/90s, and sort of very much a PSP type graphic, which has been blown up to a massive size screen. So all the graphic negativity you would see, you wouldn't notice on the PSP, but you certainly notice on the PS5, for example. So it's quite old-fashioned. It feels kind of French 1990s animation drama, but very good. And I've only played 4 hours because I've been very busy. So I've only completed chapter 1, but I very much enjoyed it and will happily complete the rest of it. I was surprised to read that it takes about 30 hours in total to complete, which is quite a long time for a turn-based strategy game. But I'm 4 hours in, so it's a start. What do you think?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just wondering. I don't think I've completed chapter one, which would suggest, although I've played more than 4 hours. So,
Hmm.
but I'll come to that because I got stuck in one place, and
Ah,
and you might be, that might explain it. Yeah, I thought first impressions, like you said, the sort of blown up onto a bigger screen didn't really do the graphics any favors, or certainly the user interface or the cartoon type elements.
yeah.
Although the game itself, I think, must have been up-resed somehow because it's quite sharp, although the things are quite blocky. So yeah, first impressions made me think that people's eyes have definitely got better. Second impression was exactly like you said, actually. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. I went with a medieval She-Ra, but I can definitely
Ah,
see what you're talking about in terms of D'Artagnan, particularly the French thing. The accents I thought were at least consistently terrible, which made me chuckle. You mentioned omelets. Sorry, you mentioned armlets. I
hmm,
heard omelette the first time they were talking
okay.
about it, and that just amused me for far too long. So I just chose that they were talking about an omelette. And then the English people were just as terribly voiced, which made me chuckle. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well, up to a point called Swar Valley, I think. I don't know if you remember this one, but I think you might have got past it unless I haven't noticed I've completed chapter one. Because this is one where you have to keep all of your party alive and sort of escape the other side of the
Yeah.
battlefield. And somehow this one, I had a very bad habit of leaving someone, even if had full health, but just were sort of a weaker member of the party, like someone who was there to heal the others, leaving them vulnerable and then just getting picked off, one-shotted and dead. And I don't think I've sworn much more while playing a video game than trying to get through that level until the one time where I did defeat everyone and then headed towards the exit and ran out of moves.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, so I'd had a clear run to the end of the level. I thought I'd finally got past this sodding forest valley, sorry, and actually then still managed to lose. So at that point, I decided I needed a bit of a breather and got distracted by something else. But yeah, was enjoying it and need to get over myself and get back into it, I think.
It's made me feel good about myself, actually, because I did complete that level, and it was okay.
Yeah,
I did take quite a few attempts to do so. So in the end, I split my party into two halves, and one went round to the right, one went round to the left.
I think
And in
that's
the
the
end,
tough thing.
yeah, then Talbot, which I think was the English Lord Noble guy who was trying to kill you and was quite powerful. Yeah, in the end, he couldn't be bothered, weirdly. So as you sort of sweep round him, as soon as a couple of people escape, then he just stands there and he can't be asked. You just go there.
Oh,
And
right,
then
you
the
didn't
rest,
kill him.
no, just walk past him.
Oh, there you go.
Too much effort to kill him. So don't kill. It's not all about killing, Giles. It's about
It's my penchant for violence, which I hoisted by my own violent petard.
Interestingly, you can't actually kill anyone in the game because it is a Dogtanian replica, and no one really dies in it. They just come back to life in the next level. So
Ah,
no one ever really dies, do they? It's just come on
nice.
to the next phase.
It's a
See,
good name for a
you
band.
mentioned the accents. You mentioned the accents, if I use a correct word. Weirdly, most of the characters in it are French, but the text sounds normal. Whereas one character appears and then he's got horrific French pronunciation of everything. I couldn't quite work that out. One character you
He's
meet is like says completely different words to everyone else. Everyone else is like English French, and he's just like French. I couldn't quite get that, but
Well, you say he's French. He's like the policeman in Hello Hello, isn't he? He's like ease these, your, like all that sort of
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
didn't really
It was.
understand that. Why he was more French than everyone else, or more fake French? Bizarre. Good game, though.
I
Good fun.
Yeah, I mean, if he was a baddie, I'd understand it because as soon
Yeah,
as he started talking, I wanted to kill him,
yeah,
or not kill him, as you explained.
yeah.
But yeah, no, he's on your side, or at least he is so far. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I wonder if I'll go back to it. I've got to be honest, only
Hmm.
because there's so many other games, and we'll probably get to that. But both in terms of things that I've got on the card, and also coming up because we're getting into busy season. But
Yeah.
you said you thought you would.
Yeah, I think I will. I was just annoyed when I read it was going to be 30 hours because for me, 30 hours these days at my age, with so many other things going on, it's quite a long time to finish a game, especially
Yeah.
if it turns out to be fairly samey in every chapter and you just walk around and plan stuff and not kill people. So yeah, if it's 10 hours, then I'd be much more keen to finish it off because it seems achievable. At 30 hours, that's like a lot of time. If you only play like an hour or two a day, that's like a month's worth of effort to complete a game with annoying French accents. So we'll see. I enjoyed it. I might get back into it. Annoyingly, as I've got older, I feel the urge to complete games now, which is bothering me. When I was younger, I never completed anything at all and really enjoyed them. But now I feel the urge to complete a game, especially now when we talk about it. I like to go away and finish the game. So there we go.
Sorry about that, James.
Yeah.
You may remember one of my New Year's resolutions
Yes.
was to stop finishing games. So perversely, if I don't go back to it, I'll be very pleased with myself because I'll have broken my addiction to, or refusal to let it go, basically.